Hi, hi, hi. I would like to talk about my 1 year of programming, 1 year and 6 months of programming. 1 year and 5 months of programming. Do algorithmic like exercises in using code suffice the actual criteria of programming? There's a lot of people that I met like distinguish a big difference between a programmer, a web developer, a software engineer. I know the difference between a well, just like web developers are technically engineers, they're either front end or back end engineers. And like programmers are more designers, that they kind of like create the code or something like this. And so let's just say 1 year and 6 months of programming. Fuck yeah, because I started early May in 2022. So now I think it makes sense because we're at the end of October. Yay. But anyways, so after 1 year of designing my website 3 times, and in that process, I learned a lot about like everything web, everything from how people kind of like get their data online and what are the necessarily protocols that are there to like protect websites and like security features and front end development versus back end development and databases and all that cute stuff. I learned a lot about them and I actually like used them in practice. And my website worked. It's just like there are things that I needed to consider more. And that's basically what they always tell you. Like you kind of have to do it and do it and do it and do it and do it. And as you do it more, it becomes easier and smoother in your head. And it is amazing because of how like true it is. It's super weird as well. But the one thing they kind of like don't really like teach you when they're trying to teach you code is when they're trying to teach you programming, especially like me. And anytime I was looking at web developers, and the few people that I actually like and I follow like directly on YouTube are no longer people are were never the people, sorry. Well, I say no longer because I don't listen to the others unless I want a piece of code. Instead of me thinking about it for 3 days, I can find a YouTube video and the person's discussing how he did it, and then I actually have the like map in my head. I have the systematic approach in my head. So I know how to think about it instead of like just reinventing the wheel kind of thing. Why would you want to do that? You can, but why would you want to do that? But so the actual people that I like listening to, and basically the lecturers and the experts in their field, are the people that tend to like create their own mental map of the things that they're doing. And it's very much an engineering thing because like for engineers to design, for example, engines, for architects to design like buildings, they kind of have to create a mental map of how everything fits together so that whatever they do within their design actually makes sense and for all the things that they're trying to kind of create have to like connect with each other in certain ways. So it's a lot easier if there's a physical object in front of you. All you have to do is kind of dismantle it and then figure out where it goes, who and where, and eventually you get the final product. If you're learning that way, or if you just basically have screws and holes and you have to imagine that the screws go into the holes and then basically different pieces in different ways. Uh, But when it comes to software, you either have to test stuff out until like using them in certain ways becomes very natural. I don't like that approach. I could have done that approach, but that approach requires like uh, unrelenting stubbornness. I don't like being stubborn about something because like knowing how something gets done and understanding why it gets done in certain ways for me are completely separate things. So my goal has always been to be able to kind of like I don't want to code anytime I want to code. I don't want to just like have to go and like kind of restructure everything from point zero or test everything the same way I tested the first time. I kind of want to like improve without the common mistakes that make the page in front of you go red. Because as a developer, you're going to go through that phase where everything is red, and then you're going to go through a phase where if it's red, something's off because you have a certain thought process in your head, and then basically that thought process is either like supported by the work that you're doing, or is kind of like showing you that like it still needs some refinement. So my goal is to build an understanding and a certain mind map of how things work online in order for me to be able to like build on top of it. And as I kept building, remember at first I was really trying to just like understand how websites are built. So like all I cared about was like actual code, but I always liked exploring the web more and like figuring more stuff out in the websites and like seeing how things work and all these kinds of things. So my interest was more those because those were interesting. Like, oh, why does this work and how everything works? And code in my head kind of like only settled down as I started seeing things work. And I did not like that because the bases of it are not really explained online. They're only explained through documentation. And documentation, you kind of have to start reading from all the way back when they first started explaining computers, all the way to now, for you to understand the terminologies they're using, the things they're using, which I met a lot of programmers, man, especially here in Lebanon. Most of them are kind of clueless. When I'm trying to talk to them about certain things, they're clueless because, like, they're used to doing things a certain kind of way. And anyone can build a website after a while using the same code, using like the same style in coding. All you have to do is kind of like write things a certain kind of way and you don't get an error, so you get a website. But why are these working? Most people are not interested. For me, I am. So after a year and 5 months, and a guy that I like been reading his blog since March, and every single time I feel stuck, I always go read his blog. And the way he describes things is a lot more in tune with why it works and how it works and where what it allows you to kind of consider after you figure that out. Because there's a lot of things that are explained about what it does and what you can use it for, and a lot of things of why they chose to build it or why they chose to have something like this, and why it wasn't necessary for them to like have a team of like 15 people spend 2 years to develop the software. And it's a team of 15 people, man. You're talking $1 million plus, like even more per year spent on developing a certain software for a specific purpose. And then those are the things that are interesting for me. So I took, and this guy finally launched a course. And even though like I'm fully familiar with all the things that I'm doing, I decided to take that course and actually go from point zero, where nothing was there, all the way to basically where the course ends. And as I'm going through the course, the way he says it, he goes like, after you're done with the course, you'll have a different mental approach towards the actual software. And ideally, that's what I would want to reach because like I want a certain mind map where I can actually go around on my own. Where anytime I have to build a website, all I have to do is decide where I put where and for what reason does it work, and basically do the fundamental stuff that the fundamental analysis of the project itself. And then everything becomes smoother. Why? Because you have like a core essential basic, like you know what to search for, you know what to actually what to use to build. And uh, okay, so the purpose of this video is literally to express how I feel about it. But like the reality is, it's an ecstatic feeling. And the reason it's an ecstatic feeling is because like restudying something you thought you're over will kind of like show you the depth that people had to go through for them to kind of produce it. Like when you're reading a book, you're not reading a book that's basically 400 pages. You're reading 10 to 20 years of somebody's life described in this book, forgetting the how many years it took for that person to write that book and how many people it took to edit it and to review it and all these kinds of things. And I really don't think we actually engage with that aspect of whatever's in front of us. I really think that what we do is a lot more utility based, like, oh, water. Okay, but this bottle is a product of I don't know how many years of design and people like considering they would want the water to be cold. They would want the bottle to fall down. My consideration for this is it's strong enough if somebody attacks me, I'll literally be able to like smack him in the head with it, like, utility, and people tend to kind of like just use the stuff in front of them. But true understanding comes from like grasping the concepts behind it, all the all the effort that I don't want to say effort, but all the things that kind of came to place. And this bottle only exists because somebody decided to take a cup and put a lid on it at one point in history. And a cup only exists because somebody got like tired of drinking from their hands, and drinking from their hands exists because somebody decided to stop kneeling down to the creek and drinking from their water. So all kind of like innovation and ingenuity kind of leads, and they're all connected in a very strong and powerful way. So going back to something, which is basically in the form of the new course that I'm taking, is literally just like reestablishing. And even though sometimes it's kind of boring, but this boredom is literally because like when a lesson is done and I know I was feeling bored in it, it's because like everything that was there, I go back to it, by the way. Because when I'm feeling bored, that's arrogance from me. So I go back to it, I reread it again, and as I'm rereading it, I'm kind of like highlighting the things that I was bored because of, and remembering why I know them and how I know them. Like I'm trying to actively be engaging with the things that I think I know in order to build a stronger understanding. And I think I explained it very much. I've explained it a lot through different conversations before, but mainly like whatever you have needs to be small and concise to a point where you can build anything from it. And so, like ideally, ideally, whatever, man. But anyways, it's just like that refined kind of like the sanding at the end of a table, at the end of a piece of wood. That even though it's smooth and you put everything there, you still sand it one more time and give it an extra layer of paint just to like kind of like make it change the whole vibe around it. And it is fascinating how connecting to something you already know more than once establishes it in your head differently, and it alters the way you consider it. And especially when you're actually listening to people like who truly understand what they're talking about and what they do. Fun stuff. I don't know why I wanted to talk about this, but I really think I needed to hear this. So if anyone's interested in what I talked about, that would be amazing. If not, hey, I'm already getting like 3 views maximum because of the algorithm. So like we're cool. I'll get there one day. Peace out.